7 minutes after 7 o'clock, 7:07, and joining us on the phone line, Gubernatorial hopeful. There he is. Hey, Doug, how are you?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
Doing well. Doug Gansler, current Attorney General for the state of Maryland and gubernatorial hopeful. How goes the campaign?
Well, it's going. It's a week from today is the election. It's so far they have the early voting going on, and it's been pretty slow, and that's that's to be understood. And
yeah.
Especially when it's 90 degrees and such out there. And, I mean, in places like St. Mary's County where they just have one early voting booth, it's pretty hard to get to. So, we're very, very optimistic. It's going to be a dogfight. We've got the whole status quo, the machine, the O'Malley. I'm sure he's paying taxes. They can, charge people taxes to vote, but it's going to be crazy out there. But I think we're going to come through.
Now, let's talk a couple. What about your endorsements? Who's endorsed you lately that you're just tickled as tickle can be that you're getting the endorsements from?
My mother.
Yeah, that's the big one right there. Yeah. That's the big one.
My mother, my dog Max. No, we've gotten we're not that focused on the endorsement side. That said, for example, in St. Mary's County, we have the current and former Democratic elected officials. We have 19 of them endorsing us, with Johnny Wood and Dan Raley sort of co-chairing the campaign. Eddie Bailey and some others are helping us pretty avidly down there. We have 19 endorsements. Brown has 3. Of course, Heather Missouri doesn't have any. And we got the Baynet endorsement. We got the St. Mary's local paper. We got the Calvert local paper, the Gazettes. But and the IBW, it was the biggest union in the area. But we're really more focused on the endorsements of actual people that are going to go to the polls to vote. This whole election between me and Brown has been about the machine and the status quo and the anointment of the lieutenant governor as the next governor. But people don't like that. People want to sort of look at the records and look at the vision and see what we've done. And in Southern Maryland, that should be easy because I'm there every few weeks, and the lieutenant governor has been there once or twice in the last 8 years.
Let me ask you this, too. News, according to the Veterans Affairs, I guess the acting head guy now, he's going to be visiting the Baltimore VA. And I know that Brown touts the Baltimore VA as, it's working and everything is going great. But we've been talking to veterans in Southern Maryland, and it seems that they are having the same problems that a lot of the VAs are showing up and having problems with getting people in a timely manner. I mean, if you were governor...
Actually, Brown said that he's got a very uncomfortable relationship with the truth, and the Baltimore VA is actually ranked as the worst, and the worst, the second worst, depending on what criteria you use in the country in terms of the VA getting benefits out to the veterans that are coming home. We have so many veterans in our state, and we welcome and embrace our veterans, but we don't do enough for them. I mean, the VA, yes, that's a federal agency, but the state can push hard and advocate for our veterans much better than we do. And we don't do a good job on making sure people get treatment for PTSD that need it when they come back, and that we don't give our veterans enough of a tax break, frankly, on the state side in terms of our hometown heroes. So there's a lot more we could do for our veterans, in particular retraining. We're 46th in the country in terms of adult reeducation. We need to be able to have access to the community colleges and others to retrain our veterans.
Okay, achievement gap. I hear this from his side, and I also hear it from your side. What are you going to do if elected governor, or when, however you want to phrase it, what are you going to do to close the achievement gap? And what is causing the achievement gap?
Well, the achievement gap is actually an issue that I brought up during this campaign because they run around saying we've got the number 1 schools in the country, which is, well, first of all, they cheated to get there by not having everyone take the test. So even under that ranking system,
right,
which is basically a funding ranking system, they're 8th. But the reality is we have the second worst minority and rural achievement gap in the United States, right here in Maryland, which means we're failing so many of our kids. So depending on what zip code you're born in, or even what you look like, you may or may not get access to a top quality education. What causes it is a lack of focus in certain areas and a huge focus on other areas. I was the first candidate and remain that first candidate to suggest that we take pre-K from half day to full day And the reason why that's so important in terms of the achievement gap is what happens is in rural areas or underserved areas, children show up at kindergarten with like 3,000 word vocabularies, where in the rich areas, they show up with 8 to 10,000 word vocabularies, and they never catch up. So we need to expand pre-K out. But at the end of the day, we also need to be able to say when you're 16 years old, if you want, you can continue your traditional path of education until you're 18, which is how long you have to stay in school in Maryland, or you can do a vocational career apprenticeship.
Love that.
So you go there for, in the morning you do
Right.
math and English, in the afternoon you do your career apprenticeship, and then when you're 18, you graduate with a certification as well as a diploma. And the last thing is to make sure we have skilled teachers in every classroom. I mean, that's the key to the whole deal, that we make sure that we have a system where, the teachers union right now has it so that when you're 22 years old, you come out of college, you teach for 3 years, and now you have tenure. And we have and there's nothing that can happen to you. And if you're not a good teacher, most of our teachers are wonderful. We should support our teachers. We should pay our teachers more money, give them more resources, our good teachers. But we have to have a mechanism for removing our bad teachers, like they do actually in Montgomery County. It's called peer assessment review, where the teachers themselves review the bad teachers, and they're able to remove hundreds of bad teachers and support the good teachers even more.
So where do you go with from here, Doug? Where does the campaign go? What happens between here and Election Day?
Yeah, you're a week away. I mean, it's go time.
Yeah, well, no one's ever going to outwork me. So, we knock. I go to the metros in the mornings. I knock on doors every afternoon. We send out our emails. We raise a little bit of money here and there. But, it's going to be, of course, another week of commercials on TV and mailers. And they've been running a negative campaign, a dirty campaign for about 9-10 months, so we expect that to continue. But, I think it's really getting our voters out to the polls, making sure that people realize that this is a key primary election here, because not always, but typically the Democrat wins in our state. And it's a real contrast. Do you want, another 40 taxes, more casino gambling, to be the future of our state, continue to squeeze the middle class out of Maryland, or do you want to have a new direction, somebody who actually has had 22 years of public service, seeing problems and fixing things and getting them done? And that's what we're presenting. And so we need to make sure people actually vote and don't say, it doesn't matter, because it really, really does. I mean, they just came out with yet another report, and we've talked about this before, about our economic vitality here in the state.
Mm-hmm.
It just came out another report that Maryland was 49th in the country in economic growth. Well, that's just ahead of Alaska last year. And, we're 49th in personal income growth. We've lost over 8,000 small businesses, and, we have 76% more people unemployed than there were 8 years ago. And these guys don't get it, that we actually need jobs, and we need to bring jobs back, not more taxes and casino gambling.
Let me ask you about one of your opponents, Heather Mazier. She is touting the way to pay for everything, or at least in the ads that I've seen, is the legalization of marijuana and taxing marijuana. That's going to pay for full day pre-K. I mean, what is your take on the absolute legalization outright in Maryland for marijuana?
Well, first of all, I think we should be paying for the things that we want to pay for as Democrats. We talked about the minority achievement gap. We also have huge congestion issues. We have, the ninth most violent state in the country, and our environment needs to be protected along with bringing jobs in. So you can't pay for all that by just legalizing marijuana. I mean, it has been, we had medical marijuana a couple of years ago. This past year, we got decriminalization. Mm-hmm. I think we're in a good position right now. I think we should wait and see. I mean, there is a path toward legalization that seems to be, a movement almost, if you would, around the country. But I think we ought to be patient and make sure we do it the right way, that if and when we go to legalization, we do it hand in hand with public safety officials, public health officials. Let Colorado and Washington have their legalization of marijuana. See how it goes for a couple of years. See what the pitfalls are. Because once you do it, you can't go back. So let's make sure it's done. If it's going to be done, let's make sure it's done right. And we shouldn't be in a rush. And we shouldn't be motivated by bringing in more taxes on it. That shouldn't be, in my view, the motivation for it.
So the Washington Post has you behind Anthony Brown in the latest poll numbers. Are you concerned about that, especially after the whole Eric Cantor debacle? I mean, are you paying attention to the polls, or are you just out working and having faith? I mean, what's your mindset right now, a week out?
Well, the Eric Cantor thing was interesting. The Washington Post had Eric Cantor ahead by 34 points 10 days ahead of the election, and
Right.
he lost by 12. So that was a 46% poll that was wrong. And so, you pay attention in the sense that the misperception that's created by bad polls may or may not have an effect, especially when they put the poll out the day before voting starts.
Mm-hmm.
So the real question, I think, in terms of the polls is who's actually going to vote. And so what we're focused on is, well, our polls would show it to be a very tight race, A, and B, because we actually are polling in terms of what we believe turnout will actually be. And then B, to make sure that our voters get out and vote, that they understand how important it is that we win this election for the state of Maryland, for Southern Maryland in particular. We have people working, every day, all day at the early voting booth and making sure that we flush out the voters, because people, if they stay home and then complain afterward, it's going to be too late. So
Right.
I think, look, our mindset is really that we're cautiously optimistic. We know what we're up against. The O'Malley Brown machine, all the special interests are funding millions and millions of dollars because they have a strong interest in keeping this guy there. They can control him, and they can have 8 more years of just more taxes and letting the special interests control Annapolis. Or, we can get our people out and make sure we change the culture of Annapolis.
Do you think if he does get in, it'll be a puppet administration?
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
I just can't get my
running on.
I can't get my head around anybody looking at what has happened under the O'Malley administration as far as taxes and the exodus of jobs that have happened in this state and say, "Oh yeah, this is absolutely the path we need to be on."
Please, sir, may I have some more?
Yes, please. Exactly. That's exactly it. Please, sir, may I have some more? I cannot fathom how anybody can look at this and go, we got to continue this. This is terrible.
Well, it's actually even worse, because at least O'Malley had run something. At least he'd been a mayor. I mean, Brown's actually never managed anything led any.
Well, healthcare.
Hold on, you got in trouble for that.
The Affordable Care Act, and that cost us $200 million and hundreds of thousands of people that can't get healthcare. And so, it's hard to imagine, but that's what political machines are all about. And that's why. But fortunately, that's why we have democracy, and the people will ultimately decide. And we just have to get them motivated to come out to vote in a week.
Well, the one thing that got me in the first debate that you guys had, the one thing that really kind of, raised my eyebrow a little bit was when he was touting the VA. And, the VA is different than veterans. And I understand you want to support veterans and you want to do everything you can for them. But he was saying how the VA, it's filled with wonderful people and they're doing just great work. And I'm sure there are great people that work at the VA. But it's ridiculous that it would take 81 days to be seen if you're a veteran and you're ill. That it's ridiculous. There is a fault in that. And when he said, well, it's absolutely the best, it's fantastic, I kind of took a step back then. And that's when I really started questioning what's the truth and what isn't the truth when it comes to the VA and other issues in the state of Maryland.
Well, that's right. He's got a sort of a funny sense of what's going on, and he talks about, how we have these great schools, which we talked about. We have the second worst minority achievement gap. He talks about what a success the Affordable Care Act rollout was under his leadership when, the Washington Post, the Baltimore Sun, every person in Maryland realizes it's a national embarrassment. We're 47th in the country in terms of enrolling people. As far as we could tell, the $200 million of our taxpayer money that went into, remember, this is just a website to actually be able to enroll people, have fewer than 1,000 people, even if that were actually able to enroll. And he says it's been a huge success because he counts the automatic rollover of the Medicaid people, which had nothing to do with him. And so he's able to sort of spin numbers and run numbers, and because he's part of the machine and the status quo and the establishment, nobody questions him on it, except for real people that know better. And that's,
right.
Those are the people that hopefully come to the polls.
Well, listen, Doug, thanks, and good luck to you. Get out there and vote, make your decisions, and figure out what you're going to do. But that is.
But it's important to vote in the primary. It is so important.
This is an important thing to do. I mean, that's the key. It's really, look, if Brown wins, could a Republican become governor? Of course, but it's still, the numbers suggest the Democrat wins. So this is really the election next week, and it's pretty important to the future of our state for our kids.
Right. All right, Doug, thanks for calling in this morning.
Thanks, guys. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, Doug. Thank you. Good luck to you.